This show is part of the Deluxe Edition Network. To find the other great shows on the network, head over to the deluxeeditionnetwork.com.
Bev's Video Kingdom is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised.
Bev's Video Kingdom really is brought to you by...
What the fuck?
What's up, dude?
One of my renters broke the toilet again. That dude takes giant shits. Now I know what I'm doing tomorrow.
Why don't you hire a property management company or something to take care of that stuff?
Because they suck, and they take 10%.
You know, our dude Hank owns and manages Heritage Realty Partners. I think he said he only charges 5%, and he visits each property at least once a month.
That's right. He's always posting beers from the road. You have his number?
Actually, I do. His personal number is 805-451-5734.
Perfect. Now he can deal with my renter's big shits.
Heritage Realty Partners.
For all your property management and investment needs.
This episode of Bev's Video Kingdom is brought to you by Lieutenant Dan's Virtual Running Simulator. Are you tired of sitting on the sidelines while everyone else runs like Forrest Gump? Do you want to experience the thrill of running without actually having to move your legs? Look no further than Lieutenant Dan's Virtual Running Simulator.
You just ran.
Our state-of-the-art simulator will transport you into a virtual world where you can run into your heart's content. Whether you want to run through a tropical rainforest, sprint through a busy city street, or even race against Forrest himself, our simulator can make it happen.
You just ran.
And the best part, you don't even have to move your legs. Our simulator is equipped with advanced motion capture technology that will make it feel like you're actually running, even though you're standing still.
You just ran.
So why settle for just watching others run while you can experience it for yourself with Lieutenant Dan's Virtual Running Simulator? You don't have to run real fast. You just have to keep on running.
You just ran.
Where can I pick one of those up?
It's, of course, Lieutenant Dan, the one who created that.
Oh, God. It's too much. It's too soon.
Let's start this thing.
What's up, friends? This is Bev's Video Kingdom, and we are here for... This has been a long time coming. We're here for the 1994, I guess it was 95. It came out in 94, the 95 Best Picture Oscar winner, Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump.
The way he says that's great.
I love it. It has no accent until that point.
Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump. So we're doing Forrest Gump this week. This is, arguably top 10 most well-known movies all time. I'm not saying it's best, but it's definitely like in the lexicon of iconic movies.
If you take all the young people all the way up to all the old people nowadays, like I feel like, at least in the United States, people are going to know Forrest Gump. Like it would have been very difficult to miss any reference of this. Like you could talk to somebody and be like, "Oh, I never heard of Pulp Fiction." Like that's possible.
Oh, I actually think that's.
But Forrest Gump, like how you would have avoided not hearing anything about Forrest Gump would have been like you were a cave or a coma.
Well, and go ahead.
Because this thing was just enormous when it came out. Like everybody I knew watched this movie and was talking about it.
It's a $55 million budget. It has a $25 million opening weekend, a $330 million domestic, and a $678 million worldwide. So, here's the other thing about this one. You think of a few of the like truly, if I was going to just off the top of my head throw together like movies from the last 40 years that would be on this sort of iconic list, you think of things like Goodfellas and, like you said, Pulp Fiction and, maybe some, Rocky or Good Will Hunting or Shawshank Redemption. All of those movies, maybe with the exception of Rocky, are R-rated. So when you think about why there's sort of this widespread knowledge of it, it's a PG-13 movie, and it's in some ways like a soft PG-13. There's a few F-bombs. There's a sort of like weird jizz scene.
Kind of brief nudity-ish.
Yeah, sort of. But I mean,
little side boob.
like if you're a parent wanting to like consider letting your kids watch this movie, you could be like, I'm going to jump ahead 10 seconds 4 or 5 times, and then it's good. We're good.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it's like, it's not just that it was not, but it was like appealing to everyone. It wins the best picture. It's appealing to everybody. It's a huge box office success. In some ways, right? Tom Hanks was already, a mega star, and this kind of like, I think unbelievably took him to a new level. So for me, I feel like this movie is among the biggest we've done, among the biggest we'll do. And in some ways interesting because it wins best picture. It's super popular, but it's not without some real controversy.
Right.
And I don't really mean the like sort of like, did this hold up? Should this be canceled? Controversy so much is like, is this really a great movie or is it dog shit? Are these characters really likable or are they just completely unlikable? And I think there's like really more polarizing opinion as time goes on about these. So I'm ready to get into it. Like
it's interesting because I don't remember having any controversy at all when it came out at all. I remember sitting in the theater thinking just the whole time going, this is the best thing I've ever seen. At the time, there were some scenes I was like completely blown away, and none of the problems that I definitely saw on my rewatch the last couple of days. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And then why wasn't that an issue before? I don't know. Times were different back then, I guess. I don't know.
And the thing that I always appreciate about this movie is that the pace is so just, it's constantly moving forward. And obviously it's obvious because of the time period. It definitely tells you as it's moving forward, but it consistently moves forward and nothing ever seems like it's like happening for too long.
It's the shortest 2 hour and 20 minute movie I've ever watched because when I queued it up, I was like, oh shit, this is 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Well, my experience was like, I kept being like, wow, we've been way into this. And I'm like, wait a minute, that hasn't happened. And that hasn't happened.
Right.
That hasn't happened. But I'm like, I'm dying for those things to come.
Yeah.
I'm not bored, but I just can't believe that we've covered this much ground. We have this much left to go. But I also think, like, to your point, Brad, it moves along at a good pace, but it also, like you say, it's a consistent pace. It's like some movies, they move along at a good pace, but it's like it kind of there's a little bit of whiplash. Like it's always moving. Sometimes it moves too quickly. Sometimes, it's just not slow, but it's not necessarily the correct pace. This one is like, it pulls you along at such a, like, even the moments that are deliberate somehow still keep the pace that you want, right? He's sitting there on the bench for a period, and he'll have a 2 or 3 minute scene and it never feels like it's sitting, right? It always is moving. It's
a collection of short stories,
right.
And so, and it's like just got with this narrator through the middle. And it's a very interesting, I don't know if I'd ever seen anything like that or seen anything like it since. It's that seemingly seamlessly tying those two together, him telling these stories and then just kind of jumping to each one. And that allows it to kind of keep the pace. I
mean, really the only thing that I ever feel like I want to fast forward is the opening. That fucking leaf, feather. I immediately hit fast forward. I'm like, immediately, I want to hear him start talking because that stupid feather takes forever, and it's a
it got the nice
okay soundtrack. Yeah. Like, I mean, I don't know, it's all right.
I think the score felt better of the first time around. Yeah. This time around, yeah. So the soundtrack is great.
Right.
The score is I think okay.
Yeah.
I have some thoughts on that. I was thinking about that a lot, and yeah, it's not one of the iconic film themes. You're not going to walk around humming that one in your head, but when I heard it, I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of nice. And what I like about that, we'll talk about this now, is I think he did a good job with this kind of simple sounding melody, almost childlike, kind of nursery rhyme type theme, which fits well with Forrest. So I thought it may not be the best, most memorable thing, but I think it's perfect for the movie as far as me.
No, I completely agree with that. And I think in some ways, maybe that's why I feel like the first time around it like hit exactly. And now maybe I'm looking at it as its own thing in some way. So I'm curious though, Scott, like you kind of, you hinted that you liked it less or that you saw things this time that you didn't and not necessarily in a positive way. So like, what's your overall take and what's your like take over time?
Well, I remember seeing it in the theater and thinking that was the most amazing experience I had ever had. Visually, the audio, I don't know if it was a time when theaters were like kind of transitioning to like the THX sound or something that was better. I just remember being in that theater And that shit was so loud, and the war scenes were amazing, and the music, you know, even when the soundtrack comes in, just hit a different way than I ever remember any movie, even like Star Wars movies. It was just different. And so I just remember going, I think I was on a date, and I think it was just a great night. I've watched it, I don't know, a couple dozen times over the years and catch it. And every time it comes on, I just drop my remote and start watching, and it's always just makes me feel good. Last night was the first time I had watched it from start to finish in a long time. Well, technically I finished it this morning, but I tried to watch it last night. I started too late. And I did enjoy it. I did. But I don't know if it's just because I've seen it so many times, but I did notice a few things that were just a little bit weird. You know, like I remember being in the theater and Sally Field giving it up to the principal. I thought was hilarious in the theater. This time, that's kind of weird.
You felt weird about it?
Yeah.
Did you feel weird about it? Like you felt like you judged her or him more?
I kind of judged them both.
Okay.
Yeah. It was just creepy. But I was like, well, she's just doing what she needs to do to help her kid. But I'm like, that sucks that she's in that position. It just hit me different, and which sucks because.
No, I can see that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have any, I think my reaction when you say that is like, I don't have any judgment of her in a negative way. I think though that like at the time I probably just thought it was funny. It was a gag.
Totally. I thought it was funny back then, but now I think I definitely felt like that's creepy for him to ask and to basically put that on her.
Yeah.
And
in some ways maybe a little more like at the time I think it seemed more like a caricature than it does when I watch it now. I'm like, no, that shit probably fucking happened. Like
right.
they you know, it's just that was the situation. That was the power that she had to try to pull the lever and like I'm sure that kind of thing happened all the time.
And it's the 50s. I mean, the way he asks, he's not super upfront. Is there a Mr. Gump, Mrs. Gump? And
right.
They definitely portray him as kind of scummy.
He's like the great scummy actor of all time.
Yeah. Oh,
he's a great scummy
legit.
guy.
He's up there.
Yeah. All right. So what's your role on this, Brad?
So I know where I saw it. I saw it at Turlock Cinemas for sure. And I don't remember who I saw it with or I remember there being hype. Like, because when you said it did 25 million first weekend, that's not necessarily a knockout weekend. It's good.
It's not now.
Which means word of mouth probably pushed this thing.
Right.
Well,
I think this is a movie that built and built on word of mouth and just kept getting bigger and bigger. I saw some things where it said like the number of weeks that it was in the top 10 was like just crazy. Like, I mean, as far as how long it's staying power at the theaters, like everybody's saying you guys, and you can see that in the movie. I mean, it's going to reach out to, we were teenagers watching it and we were like, oh, this is a great movie. You got to think, how did the nostalgia play for like 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds at that time? Like they probably like, I mean, this is bringing everybody and their grandmother to the theater, which is pretty incredible. Mm-hmm. I remember seeing it and just being like, oh my gosh, I understand why people are excited about this movie. This movie is one of the greatest things I've ever seen. And Scott, you were talking about the sound and everything. Like there's one thing that still hits me to this day and it gives me a good feeling. And because it reminds me of that theater experience. Like, you know, back in the day, we didn't all have home theaters and there was just, you could only get that sound at a good theater. And when it goes to the Vietnam scene, Credence comes in and that helicopter blades are whirling like that. Just I remember feeling it in my chest, like the like of the rotors, and then it comes in just so clean and crisp. Yep. And it's such a perfect. Oh my God!
I just got goosebumps right now. You described it.
I totally agree.
I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
That was the scene that stood out to me. Almost there's two scenes that stood out, and that was the second one where I just remember going, "Oh my God, that just feels so different."
Yeah. So I don't want to step on. I had been debating, so I'll just kick this one. The from that moment, the military scenes in this movie are the perfect for me. Mm-hmm. They're and not just that. I mean, that's obviously a great opener, but it's the perfect segment of the movie. I think it's a movie that's too long and too uneven in terms of the stories to have it, you know, I don't know what a fucking perfect movie is, but let's just say, you know, we were asking that question, but that part of the movie is perfect. Mm-hmm. And I think it's like an embodiment of all the things. It's fun and funny, super, you know, intense and loyal and like heartfelt. And just, yeah, I mean, I think everything from the, like you said, the soundtrack to that part, to the production and the visuals to that part, to the story is just right on all across the board.
Yeah.
And you meet Gary Sinise's, you meet Lieutenant Dan, and you meet Bubba, and like, there's just, it doesn't get better than that part for me.
Yeah. And just one of the most heart-wrenching parts of the whole film is losing Bubba. That scene it hurt. It hurt still this time when I watched it.
It absolutely. I mean, and that's the thing and this is what we're going to talk about a little bit with this movie today is it never gets preachy, but at the same time, there are moments when maybe it should have and it didn't. And there's definitely a lot of discussion, I think, to be had about, one thing I wrote down was cynics versus optimists. Mm-hmm. Like, this movie can definitely hit you a lot differently depending on if you're an optimist or if you're more of a cynic. And so I sometimes I kind of can play both roles at times. And there's parts of me, like the optimist in me, loves so many of these scenes in the movie, and in the cynic in me, there's like just so many things that piss me off about this movie. And it's so incredible. Especially, I think I didn't realize at the time when I was young. So this was 94, summer of 94. I was a freshman? Were we freshmen? Is that what it was?
No, yeah.
Yeah, because we just graduated. Well,
no, we were just finished our freshman year.
So we were
15.
going in the summer after our freshman year. And so it's like, to me, it was just a feel-good movie, like about as good as you can have going to a movie. And like,
you didn't know what cynicism was back then.
Yeah. And now my older, just cynical self.
You got that curly mustache. Just fucking
there's
like an evil Joker.
Now, anarchy.
There's
fuck everybody.
So many parts of it that I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, it's just, and of course the technology. I've always been a tech guy, and I remember that being something that I had read articles about, fact that how they were able to splice him into all these actual historical scenes. And I remember just thinking like, oh wow, like if they could do that, like what are we going to see in the future?
Yeah, it's funny to think about where we're at exactly on that point now. Yeah. But I mean, at the time it was a big deal.
It was groundbreaking. I remember the green screen and them. I'm stepping on some stuff for later, but so Lieutenant Dan's legs, I remember reading a magazine article back when there was magazines, and them showing how they did it and how just breakthrough technology, and it like frame by frame, they were showing here he is with the green over his legs, and then here's them with the computer taking the legs out. It's like, oh my God, how the hell they erase his legs?
Oh yeah.
But of course, from a 2020s context, you look at the mouths on those. Oh, it's so fucking crazy. Terrible.
Yeah, and honestly, I remember back hearing about how cool that was back then. And even in the theater, some of those mouths just weren't great. Like John F. Kennedy, I think, was one that kind of stood out to one that just didn't look good at all. Some of them were
John Lennon,
it was rough. Yeah. But the legs, the missing legs, that was incredible. Still stands up. That like, I was watching it closely this time.
Exactly, I was doing that same thing. I was watching this time. I was like, I want to see like. But man, so many of those scenes look pretty damn great.
Yeah.
For him not having the legs, that is truth.
So, talking a little bit about the sort of the cynic, the optimist, and like who this hits, and this hitting this big crowd. I spent some time, and I often do with our movies, thinking about like, why do I like this, and that kind of led me to a bigger question, which is like, why do so many people like this, right? I mean, given our opener, it basically hit everybody, it hit every demographic, it hit every subset, on all the different like cleavages you could. I mean, it just everybody watched Forrest Gump, and or people from every group. 300
million worldwide. That means it did an extra 300 million on top of what it did in domestic.
Exactly.
So it's like that's super interesting to me is the fact that like why were worldwide audiences so drawn to this very Americanized movie? I mean, this is very pure Americana. And why were they so drawn?
So and I think like if you think about different kinds of movies, like some movies are huge because they do something exactly right for a particular demographic, right? Like, if you talk about Pulp Fiction or The Hangover, right? Like they just, it's a huge box office success because it hits this one demographic, and every single person that, every middle-aged, like man and woman goes and sees this movie.
Unless your grandma was fucking cool as fuck, you did not go home and say, "Hey, grandma, you gotta go see this movie, The Hangover. You're gonna love it."
So there's but there are movies I think that like generally they have things for everybody, and it's like a little bit for everybody. And I feel like this movie like does both somehow. I think for some people, there's something for everybody, but I think that something for everybody in a lot of cases is really deep, right? Like you look at people that, you know, because of the generational change, right? People that grew up in some of those generations, it hits them because that's from their childhood or from their teenage years. And so they capture those eras really well, and it grabs a different crowd. There's some people that like struggle with, you know, backgrounds of abuse, right? And so you look at Jenny and you go like, that's a character that you can really, really relate to.
Right.
People that struggled from, you know, poor background, you know, really poor backgrounds, or people that struggled in school, or people that, I mean, there's just like, you know, you look at the different characters and the different dynamics, and you think like, it's not just that everybody touched on something. It's like there was something kind of deep for everybody. And the other thing that hit me about this movie that I really struggled with until I finally like had a little bit of a light bulb go off was that when I saw this before, I think I saw this as a movie that was about somebody who was like quote unquote stupid, who made it anywhere. That's the movie's word, right? Stupid. And what it really is though is like somebody who tests a few points too low on whatever the IQ test was at the time that we still use, right? On some level, like academic achievement or problem solving skill set or whatever that goes into sort of like our standard IQ test, somebody that fell below the quote, like the normal range. Right. And I saw it as a very simple story then about somebody who had that struggle or disability and was able to be successful anyway, without much context, right? Like it's just, oh, this is a sort of like, you know, somebody pulling up themselves for their bootstraps or overcoming hurdles story. And when I see it now, like it's very different. So like I think about this as a story about the way in which we as a society totally misunderstand the way that we should be measuring success, right? Like, I mean, what do you think of, Brad, when you think of like, you know, when you're in a job working with young people, right? How does everybody think about success?
Money.
Right? So how do you make money, right? How did somebody tell you to go make money? I mean, outside of a few people that
okay, so for myself, it was like I always had this idea. Like for me, my path to make money, I had to go to college, you know, and get good grades, and that was how I was going to be successful.
Right. So other than like, you know, the Bill Gates or the like somebody who's just really outside the norm, right? You do well in school, right? From a very young age, right? You go on to college, you do well. You go to a job and you demonstrate all the things you've been able to do in college, right? And all that stuff is like very academic, very, you know, pretty narrow in terms of what an entire world thinks of as like the paradigm for success. I kind of see this movie now as I watch it as like, you know, maybe not intentionally, but maybe unintentionally, a very subversive conversation about the fact that we really do a shit job of thinking about what makes people successful. And probably if you look at people across their lives, eventually people come to this. Right? I mean, the way you define success. So if you think about it, like he is by definition somebody that is not good at standard, typical academic things, right? That they set us up for that right away. But think about the list of virtues that he has, right? He's kind to a fault. He's super loyal. He's incredibly protective. He's really humble. He's incredibly determined. And he's somebody who, I mean, this is an odd one, but like he follows simple instructions really well, right? And every one of those things, there's scenes in this movie that show that like it's a recipe for success. My favorite one for sure is the following directions one. So like the line I probably repeat from this movie the most often is, Gump, that's the best goddamn answer I've ever heard. And he,
why did you put that instrument, that gun back together so fast? Because you told me to, sir.
What is your sole purpose in this military? To do everything you tell me to, drill sergeant.
Yeah.
And it's like, you look at that and it's like, it's funny. It's a gag, but then you go like, that's a serious strength. Like he goes in and like the military is trying to break you down and build you back up. So the guy that's like, oh, so you just want me to listen to everything you say? That's the goal here. I'm good on day one.
Right.
Like, and all of a sudden he becomes, you know, so I see this as like this sort of almost like a treatise on the way we undervalue a lot of things that people have that they just don't get to show because of the way that, or they don't get valued generally until they kind of, you know, until much later in life, until they force the issue, I guess.
But it was also a little bit ahead of its time because why did he get into college? Because he could run fast. So if you're an athlete and you're special, then you get a full ride.
Right.
And obviously he wasn't going to classes. He wasn't pulling a C average. He just coasted through because the coaches let him. Yeah. So, which is definitely, I mean,
he got his degree somehow. I mean, I don't know what classes he was
taking. He said he was there for 5 years.
Yeah.
And I don't think he took very many. They didn't show him in any classes.
I mean, back then, I doubt University of Alabama and you need to do anything but play football.
That's pretty much true.
I mean, this might be true now, but it's definitely true then.
My cynical side, the one trait of Forrest Gump that I think interests me, and I think it kind of opens up some things in the movie, is because what is his level of empathy? Does Forrest Gump have empathy?
So, I mean, he seems to be empathetic toward. Yeah, I guess I see what you're saying though. Like, does he have is he demonstrating an ability to put himself in the shoes of other people? Like, is he putting himself in Jenny's shoes? He's protective of her. He's loyal. He's sympathetic. But I'm not sure he actually seems to not get it that she was being abused.
Or like, yeah, or at the university. I mean, it's like with the desegregation. It's like, I mean, he goes and helps the girl, picks up her thing because he's not really just thinking about the situation, but does he have empathy in that situation? And I think that they kind of use him as a tool to be like, oh, look, there's good people, but it's at the same time, I don't think he was ever like processing what other people were going through, which
when he was running in and grabbing all the soldiers, he wasn't going in there to save guys. He was looking for Bubba
until he gets to Bubba.
And he finally found Bubba.
So what's funny about that is I think that's part of why I think it's the perfect scene or perfect series, because that's a moment where he gets it and he lies to Bubba, right? Like, it's the only time in the movie where he's able to be like, I need to comfort you by not telling you the truth, by like, I get what's happening here and I can't tell you that. And so in some ways, maybe that's the only moment of true empathy, is that he really gets it.
Have you guys heard the story from Tom Hanks of what he says when the wires get pulled out when he's at the protest rally?
I've always wondered.
No, what is it?
Okay, so he says that what he says in the mic is, what I have to say about Vietnam is that some people go to Vietnam and they don't come home with any legs. Some people go to Vietnam and they don't come home at all. And that's all I have to say about that.
Dude.
Damn.
Oh, man.
Which, like, it's a very, it's a very specific thing to say, like, but is it empathy? And that's like knowing that it's like, it's not necessarily empathetic. It's just him being observant. Like, this is what I saw within my own little
but there, I
viewpoint.
guess I think of empathy as like, I think that's like heartbreak. Like, I don't think he's demonstrating empathy. I mean, that's a very centric take, right? Which is, he hurts because of Lieutenant Dan and he hurts because of Bubba. Maybe Lieutenant Dan less so at that point because he really isn't quite as close with him. But I mean, I that's a really good question. I guess I'm not sure though I'm also not sure that's a requirement for me either, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of those things where maybe I would say that's an important thing to be empathetic, but there's a lot of other things you can be that are really great, and maybe.
Oh yeah. The loyalty, like I said, the determination, like the fact that he is dedicated as hell when he puts his mind to something, like, I mean, whether it's football or whatever, I mean, he goes all out.
So the other part of the sophistication here, and it's not an empathetic thing, but like it's subtle, is he also has a very clear hierarchy of values. So he's kind to a fault, but protective also. He's, and you see this because like, he would never hurt anybody. He's the kind of guy that you look at and you go like, you would never hurt anybody. You're not a violent, confrontational person. And then anyone touches Jenny, he's like, I'll beat the fuck out of you. Right? He just like, not even just kind of like, I'm going to separate you. He just fucking unloads. Like, he loses his mind. When he, it's same as like the military scene is another reason I love it. Like he's the greatest soldier in terms of obeying orders to a fault. I mean, he's Emilio Bedelia. Like he just goes full out until the moment that Lieutenant Dan says that's an order, and he's like, "Fuck off."
Well,
like, that's a lower value for me than going and being loyal to my friend.
I had another thought about that, and I hadn't ever thought about this until I was watching it recently. Well, until I watched it just a couple days ago. Is when he's talking about there's always interesting things to do. They throw that grenade in the little tunnel and so it blows up. They give Gump the flashlight and the gun to go in there. Now, is he just dropping VC like Charlie, whoever's in there? Is he just unloading with that gun like just because that's what he's told to do? That where I really started to have my conflict is like, is he just killing people? Like, is that what he's doing? Because I mean, that's what the idea is. If there's anybody alive in there, he's supposed to be killing them. And the joke is that's like they give him that job because they know it was one of the most dangerous jobs is going into those tunnels.
He's like, I'll do that.
Right.
And he does it, but like, is he just blowing people away in there if there's bad guys, or I mean quote unquote bad guys?
Tunnel rats that's one of the most dangerous jobs that was ever in Vietnam, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Like you're crawling in one of those holes. There's trouble. There's booby traps. There's people. There's all kinds of stuff. So yeah, he's just going down there, and they're like, "Who are we going to send down? Let's send down Gump. He's not smart enough to know that there's trouble down there."
Well, is he good at it? Is like I said, is he just unload?
Probably because he doesn't
capping people? Because like that's where I get like the idea of like what's going on here? Because is he just killing other human beings? Like,
I mean, I guess my thought on that is like, this is murky water, but he's following the rules, but I can imagine conditions under which he wouldn't, right? He probably doesn't kill a kid in that tunnel, right? He probably says, no, that violates my hierarchy of values so that I won't follow your orders.
But he does everything that the drill sergeant tells him to do. So wouldn't he be told to do anything he wants? Like
until Lieutenant Dan tells him not to go back into the jungle.
But that's only to save Bubba, because Bubba is part of his hierarchy of love.
Yes, but I'm saying he probably also has like I imagine that if I'm trying to fill out Forrest Gump's sort of tree of values, not killing children under any conditions probably is a pretty high one, right? Like if I had to guess, right? We won't see that, but I'm just saying it's clear to me that he doesn't have a problem sorting through like when he's gonna pick one sort of maximum over another. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, it's an interesting point, right? That's probably why they send him down, because he's like, if these are other soldiers and they're here by their own choice, then fuck them. Yeah. Like, I'll shoot them. That's what they told me to do.
He doesn't ask questions. He just does what he's told.
That's exactly right.
No PTSD for him when he gets home.
That's right.
All right. So I've got another question for you guys, and this is a serious one. Is he the greatest multi-sport athlete of all time?
Oh boy.
He's a all-American football player at Alabama.
Right.
Probably, maybe we don't see track, but he was probably running track in the spring too.
Well, let's just call him an ultra marathoner. Forget about the track, right? He's a legit ultra marathoner. I mean, this is a thing, right?
Well, we're talking about his speed though. So he was also a sprinter.
No, he's a sprinter and an ultra. So he's a sprinter. And he's a sprinter football player. He's an ultra marathoner. Like maybe the first ultra marathoner.
By the way, one of my favorite things early on when he's a kid, and he's running, like the scene cuts, and all of a sudden, like he's like so much farther away than the camera, and there's a cloud of dust behind him. That cloud of dust is the greatest touch. It's just so great,
so cartoonish.
Yeah, so awesome.
And then he's world-class ping pong. Like,
right.
I mean, he's in the military playing, but you can assume that if the Chinese government is putting up somebody to play and they're not just like absolutely killing him at every point, this guy's top 50 in the world.
Yeah, he's one of the best players in the world.
Like the best like 10 ping pong players in the world are all from China.
Yeah. I mean, people sit around and watch him practice, so like he's got to be pretty impressive.
And I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I could probably beat Forrest Gump at ping pong.
Are you the best BVK ping ponger?
Oh,
I'm happy to go down and demonstrate this for you, but you know the answer to that.
Have you smoked Zach before? Because I know you can smoke me,
bro.
Zach never participated in your ping pong.
Ask Zach next when he comes on.
Okay.
Later.
Speaking of which, we never really said anything about Zach was going to be here at some point.
He says it's on his way. He texted me.
Yeah, this guy, he's got this new mystery life. We don't know if he became a spy or something going on.
Porn star, I think.
Okay, yeah, one or the other.
Roomba porn star.
Ever since his tryst with his Roomba.
Roomba Ron, they call it. Roomba porn.
And also, I was going to also mention that, we're part of the Deluxe Edition Network.
Yeah, we are.
Mm-hmm. And don't they have a pod of the month?
Yeah.
Who is that?
It's
us.
It is.
BBK,
and we've made so much money off of this, folks. Like, we're actually in a new studio. Like, we're in a new studio tonight.
We're actually back to the original BVK indoor studio. This was where the basement tapes were. No, actually, I guess it wasn't. Once the basement tapes came out of the basement, but weren't quite in the...
Yeah, because those were all Zoom.
Episode 1 was right here.
Yeah,
I remember walking up these stairs. I was all scared. I didn't know what I was walking into. You guys are all professional.
Get your ass up here and record a pod, bitch. But yeah, no, we thought it was going to be raining, but it actually is not raining. But we decided to go up here just in case.
It feels nostalgic.
It does.
I kind of like it. I feel like it fits the Forrest Gump theme.
It's got me all thrown off because the desk used to be on a different spot, and now I'm looking at this desk.
We rearranged. We remodeled the BVK studio.
So check out the DeluxeEditionNetwork.com. It's DeluxeEditionNetwork.com. No, the deluxeeditionnetwork.com. And check out the other amazing podcasts that are on there. And also, you can vote for up until, I think, the 1st of April, I think, is when the voting ends.
I think 1st of April or May. I don't remember. It might be crazy.
I think it's April. You can vote for The Denny's, and we are up for Podcast of the Year. And there's also some other great categories you can vote for. Every podcast is on the network, put up some categories. It's a lot of fun, so go check it out.
And there's others. I want to just, quick shout out, right? There's some stuff that's very similar to us, right? Like the Barrel Age Flicks, which we've been on. Mm-hmm. They just did a top 5 buddy movies.
Oh, yeah.
Which we've had some similar ones, and that's a great episode. It's one of their tasting rooms. It's kind of short, super digestible.
Yep.
You got to check that one out. It's really good.
I just listened to Real Drunks, their pod about Step Brothers, and Step Brothers is a classic. And there might be some BVK news about Step Brothers in the works. So just stay tuned.
End of the summer, I'm thinking
there might be some important things to hear about regarding Step Brothers and BVK. So just keep that in mind.
I just started the Stephen Gervais and Friends podcast on the history of the Detroit Lions.
Ooh,
which I assume is just the beginning of the pain.
It's watching Barry Sanders highlights, and that's pretty much it.
Oh, but anyway, Barry Sanders. He was. If you just need like 10 minutes of just what the fuck just happened, just watch Barry Sanders highlights in 10 minutes. Oh my gosh, he was so good.
NFL prognosticators are already saying that the Lions next year are kind of with that little dark horse team. Like they ended, I think they ended like 7-2 or 7-1 or something. So like they
were rolling at the end of this year.
They were feeling themselves. They've made some good pickups, and we'll see what's going on.
They'll probably that just means they're going to break the fans' hearts a little later in the season. I like that. Anyway, if you want to know about the origins, Stephen Gervais and Friends just did it. So there's a lot of great pods on the Den, and you should check them out. We are part of that network.
Yep.
All right. So any final opening thoughts before we get our special guest in here?
I do want to bring out one other thing, which so the book is very different from the movie. I've never actually read the book, but I've looked at some articles that talk about the differences, and there's some very significant differences. But what was even more incredible to me is that the director, no, actually it wasn't Zemeckis. It was I think the screenwriter, or maybe the producer, they had an idea for the second Forrest Gump movie, and they were already starting to talk about it. And then September 11th happened. And I was wondering if you guys could even guess of the exploits of Forrest Gump post Forrest Gump in the 80s. What kind of things do you think he got involved in?
Oh my gosh.
Now remember, they had these ideas prior to 9/11, because 9/11 basically kind of kiboshed it, and they were like, we're not going to do Forrest Gump.
He became like a bomb maker?
Did he start an alt band? He put on a flannel?
It's way probably crazier than you could even imagine.
Crazier than him starting an alt band?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. So let me get to this real quick. So let's just hear. This is from the screenwriter. I had him in the back of OJ's Bronco.
Oh, jeez.
No.
Oh, yes.
He would look up occasionally, but they didn't see him in the rearview mirror, and then he'd pop down. That just sounds ridiculous. Becomes a ballroom dancer and is so good that he ends up getting to dance with Princess Di.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And then he Gump's son. Well, I'm actually not going to say that one because that's gonna come up later. But the final one was he meets a Native American woman on a bus, and he ends up becoming a bingo caller at like her at the reservation.
You are making that up.
No. And then
Come on,
he's
dude.
waiting to go to lunch with her while he's in Oklahoma, and she happens to work in the daycare at a federal building, and it's the fucking Oklahoma City bombing.
Okay.
And it blows up like while he's like waiting on a bench outside.
And she dies.
It's just assuming that, if she worked in the daycare, that's like the part that like got the most devastation. So
I can see why they canceled.
Yeah.
So, and then this is right before 9/11 happens, and then they're like, I don't think we're going to do
Sounds
this.
like a great movie.
But I was like,
just
what
real
fuck?
upper.
Dude, in the
Like,
back of the Bronco, you had me at the back of OJ's Bronco.
I had to check this article twice to be like, is this an Onion article? Like, what's going on
That
here?
does not sound real.
This kid, how the fuck would he end up in the back of what was the guy's name? Al
Cowlings.
Al Cowlings, yeah. How is he going to end up in AC Cowlings, the back of his Bronco or OJ's Bronco or whatever? Like,
Oh, man.
I mean, I think the bingo caller part's the craziest, but okay. So So let's move along and I don't know, maybe have some drinks with a guest. What do you think?
I'm all about that.
Pull up a chair and grab yourself a drink. We'll hypothesize what directors think. Maybe sometimes get a guess what makes us look good. Let's drink, laugh, and pretend we know what we're doing. Drinking with the director, brought to you by Last Call Brewing.
Welcome back. We are here with our drinking with the director section, but here's the thing. Zemeckis just doesn't cut it. I mean, his historical chops are fine.
I think he fudged some of the facts.
Yeah. Everybody knows that like the issues here are kind of some historical issues.
I just watched Elvis, Baz Luhrmann's Elvis, and I was like, when the fuck is Elvis going to meet Forrest Gump? I was like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
All this shit that I learned about Forrest Gump was complete bullshit.
It was a lie. Zemeckis lied to you.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, so I don't want to talk to that fucker.
So we brought on the real expert, and that is our sister from the Deluxe Edition Network, Dawn, the host of History I'd Like to Fuck. Dawn, what's up?
Oh my gosh. Hi guys. Oh, I'm so delighted to be here. I mean, truly, like you have to know it isn't frequent to be brought in as an expert on any goddamn thing. And if on the rare occasion I am brought in as an expert on something, they rarely encourage me to drink. They just overlook it. So
it's required here.
What a dream.
Well, let's kick it off here. So Dawn, what are you drinking? Because we are sponsored by Last Call Brewing, who earned a 10-year sponsorship by just making a beer that rhymes with our name. It's pretty.
No, it didn't just rhyme, dude. We fucking manifested that shit. I said that we need Last Call Brewing to make a beer called BVK IPA, and they did exactly that. And not only that, they doubled back and made it twice, and they are fucking amazing.
And they made a ton of money off of us.
A 10-year plus 1 year, or no, maybe it was a lifetime.
It was 10 plus 1 plus lifetime. I think.
Yeah, whatever.
It's kind of like when you get life in prison, but twice.
Yeah, six life sentences back consecutively.
Yeah.
It was not negotiated properly at all.
So
Dawn, so what are you drinking to kick us off?
Well, it sounds like it's the second best beer out there, according to your endorsement. But I have two. I'm two-fisting it because I put my daughter to bed before I joined you guys. And so I have in my right hand, they're both equal. I'm not ambidextrous, but these are equal. I have a pretty basic Maker's Mark whiskey.
Ooh. Oh, nothing basic about that.
On the rocks, it was delicious. And, the ice is doing its thing. It's beautiful. And then I was just going to have whiskey, but then right before I plugged in to the podcast, I saw that I had a leftover Guinness from St. Patrick's Day.
Oh shit.
And so I went ahead and I made it a chaser, which it's beneath a Guinness to be a chaser, but it fits the theme.
No, that works perfectly.
What's your favorite whiskey? What's number one on the list?
I've probably drank the most amount of Jameson.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
But I can't say that that's my favorite.
It's just what you got.
Have you had? I
like a.
I was going to say, have you had?
a bullet rye.
The Jameson.
I like a rye.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Have you had the Jameson Stout Barrel Edition? So so they have a Jameson
Not that
Stout
I recall.
Barrel. Yeah, and so you're drinking Guinness now, which is a stout, and some whiskey. I think you might like that Jameson Stout Barrel. It's really sweet, and it's actually, you can find it on sale for like $20, and it's the best $20 you'll ever spend. So check it out.
Ding ding. Ding ding. My husband and I have this tradition where if we stop at the liquor store, we always buy the person who didn't go in because we have a child one of those mini bottles at the register.
Uh-huh.
Whatever you want, the dealer's choice. But the deal is when you come back to the car and you bring it into the car, they have to drink it immediately before you get home.
That's a hell of a tradition.
I'm stealing that.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm telling you, I mean, he did it. I am not lying. I'd be breastfeeding in the car waiting for him. And he'd come out and be like,
you pound that bitch. You drink it right now.
That's right. Looks like it's a 99 bananas for two.
All right.
No, 99 bananas.
Yep. Buckle up.
All right. Okay, so we're talking Forrest Gump, and I know.
What about our drinks?
I don't care about what you're drinking. You guys want to talk about what you're drinking? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to talk real quick because it is a last call beer. It is Operation Nectaron. That is a nice little Nectaron pale ale. It is single hopped. It's tasty as fuck. And, you know, I drank a BVK IPA earlier off of the draft. So, you know, you can only have like one of those though, because it's a 7+ beer. And if you drink a few of those,
the director's cut's an 8.1, isn't it?
No, we're not up the 8s. We weren't that high. But yeah, it's still.
I agree to disagree. Okay.
2 of those will be problems because then it'll lead to 3.
So we're recording this a week after St. Paddy's Day, and I realized I had a gig on St. Patrick's Day, and something I realized is when I drink beer and I play music, I get the burps. And as I'm singing, like I don't know why. Like at last call, I haven't had that issue, but like I was kind of drinking some Coors Light at a gig recently, and I started burping, and I was like in the middle of my phrases, and I'm like, all right, I got to stick to whiskey. And so this last week, since it's St. Paddy's Day, I was drinking a little bit of Bushmills 16-year. This was a gift from our buddy Hank, who came on.
King of the Hoisters. And so I thought it was appropriate to drink that tonight. There you go.
Nice. I like a Bushmills.
Yeah, it's tasty.
Dude, that sounds delicious, Scott. I wish I was there. I'm unfortunately in a hotel room in Sacramento, and right before we started this segment, I said, all right, I'm going to go grab another beer, guys. And I walked out of my hotel room, and this door shut behind me, and I immediately said, I've forgotten my key inside of the room. And so I had to go down and not only get another beer, but also get another key to my room. But I am back, and I've got my Elysian Space Dust IPA. Absolutely delicious local beer. And it tastes extra good when you have to go sheepishly tell the lady at the front desk that you've locked yourself out of your room and you don't have your ID or the key to your room.
Space Dust is worth locking yourself out for. I agree.
Agreed.
It could have been a love connection. If it was a 90s like romantic comedy, it'd be like
that was my meet cute. I hope
she's like, I love Space Dust. You're like, oh,
you're the one.
Like, my alcoholism brought me out of my room.
I'll give you the key to my heart. Yes.
All right. So, Dawn, my opening question is this. Forrest Gump is both famous and infamous for its historical scenes. So where do you fall on this being charming versus being aggravating?
100% charming.
Okay.
But you'll also find that I am not a snob with this stuff because I'm a history fucker. So I feel like my job is to get the accurate stuff and to try to be like the one who knows things. And however you come to the trough, baby, the history trough. Not a lot of people get up in this. In general, people think history is, really, people think history is boring and they hate it and it turns them off right away. So if Forrest Gump curls your toes and allows you to tolerate me talking to you about Nixon, or you know what I mean, then I'm for it.
So it's like gateway history.
Gateway. It's similar like Inglourious Bastards or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Like I totally love what Quentin Tarantino does with history, because accuracy. It's one of those things with history where there is no such thing as historical accuracy. They're always coming through some fucking.
You're speaking.
It's really
you're speaking
true.
my language. You're stepping on my next question.
But it's really true. Even people say, "Oh, well, the most accurate thing was the
Bible
account that was taken right then." Whoever was right next to the account, they're the ones who we should take as the expert. When the truth is, for some things, you need a couple hundred years to actually know what the fuck was going on and to see through the cloud. And sometimes it's the opposite. And sometimes the person who wrote the definitive history was a cocksucking, liar. And yet that was the history we received. So within or without movies, there's always a historiography to seeing the teller and the winner and the loser and the lens. But it's no different than your life, The
winners write the history, right? I mean, that's the saying, right? Winners write the history books. But I agree with you, Dawn, and that's why I love Abe Lincoln Vampire Slayer. I think that movie really just kind of shows exactly what happened. And
listen, you stop laughing at him, you pricks. He's 100% right. He's 100% right, because it is even like Titanic. And I hated myself for loving Titanic because I wasn't sophisticated about history yet. And I thought I needed to be a snob to be serious. but it was great. I mean, that movie got people to think about what was going on in 1918, and fuck it. So what? Rose Dawson, the door. Fuck your door.
I mean, come on. The most unrealistic part was the orgasm she had inside of that old car. I mean, let's be serious.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was a handprint of exhaustion. That's what that was.
Since we're talking orgasms, any chance that Forrest actually jizzes in the robe based on just the boob touch?
I think so.
I think so too.
I think so for sure. I mean, because obviously he hadn't had any experience with anybody at that point.
Yeah,
and
so
that's his first
he gone
movie.
through puberty without ever touching himself. Is that what we're trying to say?
No, I'm saying he's probably not doing a ton of jerking off, right? So he's like, it's loaded all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's
or not.
He hasn't,
because he's not.
He hasn't seen any porn. He hasn't seen any Playboys. It's like here's a titty that he's touching. And that's gonna cause things to happen.
I know his mom leaves the window open when she fucks. So I mean,
That's
he's
a good
down
point.
there. He's down the porch hearing all sorts of fucking that Mrs. Gump is doing.
And he's processing it because he mocks that dude relentlessly.
Yeah.
In my opinion, in my professional opinion, the no hands ejac is a lot more difficult than you guys are making it out to be. I think that's a
fair.
tough transition. I think that holding your lady friend's robe over your genitals is not going to make it happen for you. But I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong.
That's fair. That does seem like a question. I don't want to say that I'm not better than the director, but that is a tough one for me to answer. I would say though, there are some people I know, especially at certain phases of your approach to sexuality, where the idea of actual contact is so overwhelming that it is makes you nauseous.
Yep.
You're right.
I don't know. It's not easy to admit.
I'm
But you do
dizzy.
oh god.
I'm dizzy.
It's similar, but it's similar. I took my daughter to Disneyland, and you think you want to see these princesses, you know what I'm talking about, and then they're walking up at you with the castle behind you, and she was a little bit yeah, it's what I always wanted, but right now I think I'm gonna just throw up and I have to go.
It's too much.
A little overwhelming.
Okay, so can I return to the accuracy point, and not to get super epistemological here, but I'm gonna. So I was hoping you were going to disagree with me, and I could call you names and stuff, but you didn't. So this is my big boner. This is what I think is the stupidest thing that people often say is that this movie's not historically accurate, and it pisses me off. And I'm like, the history books aren't historically. I mean, the idea of historical accuracy is a total figment, right? And even to your point where you're talking about the fact that we have to choose a time period that we're looking at it or who we're listening to. I guess my contention is that you never know, no matter how long you have or who you listen to, right? There's always potentially another voice. There's always potentially another explanation. If there wasn't, historians would be out of business, right? This is what the discipline of history is this constant, it's sort of, when done well, I think it has a parallel to this scientific paradigm of, no theory is ever correct. It's just the best available until we prove it wrong, right? No history is ever correct. It's just our current understanding based on whatever constellation of voices we have and documentation we have and perspectives we have. But I mean, obviously there are movies that intentionally take liberties, but I think it feels more bothersome if you think there is some ultimate truth. As soon as you accept that none of this shit is believable, right? In terms of in absolutes, then why am I so bothered that this movie does it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Is there a question?
I don't know.
Yeah. So anyway, what do you think of my answer? What do you think of my take?
I think it's a great perspective. Well, here there's two things. I think one is that I generally look at movies in particular for their historical appropriateness versus historical accuracy. So it is did he meet Nixon? No. Did a guy named Forrest Gump ever meet Nixon? I don't know. I think actually probably if you had the technological ability to filter through all of the individuals who ever actually met Nixon, there's probably some fucking guy named Forrest Gump. And then everyone would, you know what I mean? But who cares? That's not what we're looking for in this movie. He was alive at the same time. Right. So when I say historical appropriateness, I just mean that they suggest that these two people lived at the same time. Maybe they met. And what if they met? And so if you want to start with a basis of historical possibility and then ask the question, what if? I think this is a perfect place for movies to live in. And I think that Forrest Gump kind of as a film gives a real nod to the audience And that I don't need to explain to you who Nixon is. I don't need to explain to you how weird it is that he met all these people. I'm just going to show it to you. And if you get it, you get it. And if you don't, you get it 5 years later when someone explains it to you. But it doesn't diminish this movie at all. You can tell because it's historical footage that it was important. You know what I mean? And maybe an adult explained it to you, or maybe you figured it out later. It still, doesn't matter. Things like Braveheart, okay, which is a very big deal for me, just starts to itch a little bit at what you may have been suggesting, because Braveheart does suggest that William Wallace impregnated the Queen of France, right, who was actually only 4, and there was no way they could have met. So in those instances, sometimes I kind of get like, why? You could have made up a woman to be his love interest, who, by the way, was his second love interest in the movie. And why did she have to be the queen? It was fine. It made a great movie. But those are the instances where William Wallace, and it's such an absurd history, even from the 90s, that people humped along for centuries being like, that happened. And that's when you get like, I feel like rarely I feel an instance where my historical nerd needs to step up and be like, actually, she was 4 and it was really
Did you see Regina King's movie One Night in Miami? Have you seen that before? Okay, so
I have not.
It's an interesting, because there was a historical actual night where Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown, Sam Cooke, and Malcolm X all stayed at a hotel room in Miami together. And
amazing.
She writes, I'm sorry, she didn't write the movie, but she directed the movie.
They all shared a hotel room?
They shared a hotel room together in Miami.
I didn't know that.
And a hotel room? That sounds fucking wild.
And the movie just takes place like basically in this hotel room of them. Now, obviously, there was no audio recordings of this conversation, and anything that they have from the conversations will be more anecdotal, but they actually kind of recreate what this night might have been like between these 4 guys. And it's really an interesting take, because I mean, you've got 4 gentlemen who come from very different walks of life, but I mean, black men at a time in history where civil rights and things like that are at the forefront, and they are just kind of talking about life and all sorts of things. It's a really interesting take, because it's not accurate. It's not accurate. It's not exactly what happened this night.
I heard what really happened was they just told yo mama jokes all night.
Well, I think too, the thing is, you have to look at history, and it's even these big moments in history. In a way, whenever I get kind of lost in the sauce, I tend to think about it through the lens of your own life. And that, for example, there was that moment at, pick a date, your wedding, your high school graduation, where your uncle, who's now dead, met your future ex-girlfriend. Like, there was a moment that these people all coincided, that whether they knew it at the time or it was even true at the time, it was like a huge explosive moment. And you wonder what they might have talked about, what they might have divulged to each other, even accidentally, or what they may have even been aware of. You know what I mean? And that happens in everyone's life, or even just recalling your own history, how you accidentally or intentionally rewrite.
Yeah, think if you had to make an autobiography of your own life and into a movie, like, what would it look like? I mean, how much would it be like embellished, or would you change things? Right. Would you tweak things? I mean, it always makes you think about that.
I know one.
That's a great point, John. Yeah, so I'm only 40 years old, and I'll tell stories from like 2 years ago.
Yeah,
and it'll be just this great fucking story. And some asshole like Nate will be like, bro, that's not exactly what happened at all.
Literally none of that.
But it was the spirit of what happened.
Exactly. I'm just trying to tell it so that it's more interesting.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Dawn. Now he's going to just scream back at me. It was in the spirit of the moment.
He told me.
Those things could have happened. Dawn said so.
Okay.
Dawn thinks it's great.
Don, going back to your pod real quick, yes. I know that you did the Donner Party, and one of the book that you chose, there's so much material out there, but you went for the book that you found the guy that is trying to be the most objective and just kind of had collected all these different stories, sifted through them, and I appreciate that, because I mean that's the thing that I think a lot of people don't do. They're going to hear the most sensational thing, and they're going to gravitate towards that. Whereas if you really want to get down to the actual what happened, you need to find the person that just is doing this for purely pretty much objective reasons. And I think you kind of take that path on your pod. Is that true?
Yes and no. On the one hand, I do try to, because a lot of times my guests will assign me subjects that I have no prior knowledge of. And so to our conversation earlier, I know I'm going in with my own bias, which is what do I think is most interesting? What little tidbit is caught in my brain that I'm going to like start and pinpoint my research, or what leads me down various paths, as I investigate. And I'm also looking for the most fuckable shit, right? So, because oftentimes my guests are not as interested in history as I am, but they've picked a subject that they're really interested in. And so I am trying to get them, and keep them a little bit. But the source that you mentioned specifically about the Donner Party was C.F. McGlashan. And he had a quote that I really kept with me ever since I read his book on that episode, which is he said he didn't feel the need to embellish the gruesome elements of the Donner Party because the truth is sufficiently terrible.
Yeah.
And I've literally like kept that in my back pocket when I do feel a need to not embellish, but maybe spend a little more time on something than the history books did, or I think, the truth is sufficiently exciting. And sometimes it's okay for me to just tell it. I don't have to try so hard, but I also can't help it because I'm a fan, like I'm a fangirl of history. Like if we went on a road trip, like it takes for fucking ever because I stop at every stupid fucking roadside, the like tubes where there's like some assholes selling rocks and they are like somebody you've never heard of died here. And I'm like, oh, you haven't heard of him yet. But we're going to find out about this guy.
So
nice.
my dad is a big fan of our pod. He's a home teamer, my dad. And so when we started talking about promoting your show on our show, talking about you coming on the network and how much we liked it, he's like, oh, I'm gonna go listen. My dad sits around and listens to a lot of podcasts, and like he's raved about it. Like my dad, he lives down the street, so every day for like a week, he's like, oh, I listened to another one, the Donner Party. You can't even believe what happened. He's just telling me all this stuff. So you got to tell Zach to listen. Zach's gonna love it. That shit is so gory. My dad insisted that I make Zach listen to your Donner Party episode. So anyway, he would kill me if I didn't pass it on. So Keith is a big fan of your of the HILF podcast. Anyway, he'll listen to this and be delighted.
Well, I'm a big fan of Keith. That fills my heart.
So Dawn, I know you've done a bunch of episodes. I'm curious if there's like, just really quick, is there like one like historical thing that's like your like Mount Rushmore that you want to cover that you haven't covered yet? Like, what's like the really like exciting, like super fuckable thing that you haven't gotten into yet?
Oh God, that's such a good question because there's one.
Yes, I know there's always one, right?
And I started with my favorite. My episode number one is my arguable number one. Like these two fight, which is Frankenstein. Mary Shelley and Frankenstein are my. I know you guys are already fans, but I am an expert. And have been like invited to global conferences and stuff to talk about Mary Shelley and Frankenstein. And I wrote and performed a one-woman show as Mary Shelley that was in a museum that still is in a museum, but I don't obviously perform it anymore. And that's really my kind of niche. And I love it. The other one that I haven't done a HILF episode on because I'm saving it. And I don't know what I'm saving it for because I don't know who is going to be the one, but it's George Washington.
Oh, okay.
General George Washington. My daughter's middle name is Washington. I am a huge fan. and him, and specifically George Washington and Benedict Arnold. So I feel like the episode that has not yet been made is the Benedict Arnold George Washington episode, and it's because it's like every time I talk about it I start breathing really fast and I can't what do I say? Where would I start? And
is it
it's
the fact
too big
that he's 6'4" or the wooden teeth really do it for you? Like what is the George? All of the above? I love
all of it. It's such a swoony high school crush. It goes from like adolescent girl high school crush level, my love of George Washington, to just like he's so cute and he was the first and he's so tall. And to like deep sort of like his love of Mount Vernon and the way he speaks about Mount Vernon, his home, is the way that I felt about my childhood home. And there's points during the Revolutionary War where I know because I've read all the bullshit, he's tits deep in everything. You know, he thinks Lee is going to try to take over, and everybody's warning him about internal struggle, and there's no chance that this rabble army is going to win. There's no chance this rabble army is going to win against England, the best military on the face of planet Earth. Also, they're like our parents, kind of, and like we don't even know how many guns we have. And it's just this crazy. And in the midst of all this, he would write letters back to the estate that would say things like, "We really have to make sure we trim those rose bushes," and also I heard that the cook is in love with the gardener. So when we move to the winter, we have to make sure the cook and the gardener stay together because I don't want to bring up a heavy. And this is like while you know from the timeline as you're reading it that he's writing this from a tent where he can hear the blast.
He's just dictating.
The army's hungry.
As he's crossing the river. Yep. He's just like, I'll scribe this.
I mean, so and his unique ability in history to decline power at a critical moment. To not only not pursue absolute power, but to artfully and definitively say, no, I won't take this absolute power, and I won't let the person who comes after me take it either. We're going to write this shit down. I'm so rare in human history and so lovely.
I'm an AP government teacher in Washington. When we talk about the Constitutional Convention and stuff, it's like the fact that he was there basically because they knew that he was going to be able to be the in-between. Any type of controversy, he could step in and be like, come on, guys, you know who I am. Like, let's get this shit together.
So loved.
Yeah. And then, of course, giving up the power. And then that becomes the precedent that everybody just follows. They're like, fuck, he did it. So that's the way we're going to do it. And of course, until FDR, but
until, well, yeah. And his like the necessity for the people who came after, it was important that they even had to pretend that they didn't want the job.
Yeah.
Like that was actually kind of important, that you had to be really coy about it and be like, if you guys think I'm worthy, if you guys think I should be on the ballot, then fine, is actually a really important quality in a country that has just decided no kings, you know, and to try to decide, so who's going to rule us? You have to be like, I don't really want to do it, but.
You guys are listening to Bez Video Kingdom Political Podcast. Hope you guys are enjoying it.
I can't help it.
No, we love it. We love it. Scott, you had a question earlier.
Actually, it pretty much got answered through that question. I was going to kind of ask if there was a particular subject or anything that kind of got you into history that you fell in love with. I know when I was in school, did you guys have Mr. Russell still?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
8th grade.
Such a, my favorite history teacher ever. And Civil War was my thing.
I still have
so fascinated with.
If you got a perfect score on the Civil War test, you got a fake silver bullet. I still have mine in a little box downstairs.
I got one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
you guys
right.
are nerds.
We had
Mr. Russell.
We had an 8th grade Civil War.
Mr. Russell.
Civil War teacher.
I want to meet Mr. Russell.
And this is back when you can get away with shit. This is, I mean, the early 90s or whatever. And he had a cannon, a little replica cannon, and a replica musket that he would fire on the fucking playground. And the 6th graders had no clue what was about to happen. And all of us 8th graders would be sitting there.
So excited.
And he would just kaboom. And you would see kids drop on the middle of the campus, like just go down, like, what the fuck's going on?
Dude, and he looked just like Ulysses S. Grant. It was fucking great.
Yeah.
He was a spitting image.
He had the little hat and everything. It was legit.
The beard, it was perfect.
He also had one of the wildest things that you would see in 7th grade, and this was the early 90s, so for some reason it was okay. He would bust out a real Nazi flag with blood on it and show it to us in class. And it was absolutely the most intense, insane shit. And he didn't like bust it out arbitrarily. He was like, this is really intense, guys. If you want to see this, you know what I mean? Yeah. And it was just so insane as a kid to be like, oh my God, like this is, it was really, really crazy stuff.
Yeah. Mr. Russell was like a one-man history channel.
He saw a bunch of small town country kids about a bunch of historical shit.
Oh, bless him. Bless him.
I hated social studies in the 7th grade. I hated it. Like my least favorite class. And after 8th grade with Mr. Russell, I was like, that's what I'm going to do for a job.
Yep. That's all about history.
My God.
Yeah, he was the game changer for me. He was the one for sure.
He's the dude that like you see in the story later. You're like, Mr. Russell, and he might not remember your name but I guarantee anywhere he goes, kids are coming up to him and saying like, "You were the reason I stayed in school," and that kind of shit. Like he's one of those teachers.
My God.
He is a historian that we should all like to fuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's what
I want to fuck Mr. Russell. I will fuck Mr. Russell if that will help him stay in the job. If this is the reward that he needs for generations of good tutelage, I can give some tutelage to Mr. Russell. I'd be glad.
If cloning becomes real in his lifetime, we got to clone that dude.
All right, I got two more questions I have to ask, not to cut it in my okay. First, have you seen the thing on Twitter that's been like running around with the presidents as wrestlers?
Oh God, yes, thank God. Yes, I have. And you should know my husband was like, baby, because he's not ignorant of my lusting for George Washington. And he was like, good news. And so, and yeah, G-Dubs get some
oh my God,
proper like Allman Brothers, some real No. And I was like, finally the world is seeing these guys the way I have seen them since day one, you know.
No, my wife was like, oh, William McKinley. I mean, I think of him as kind of sickly, but damn, he's kind of hot.
And you know,
it's like,
here's what's crazy. You know who they didn't have to touch at all? Polk.
Oh, dude.
James K. Polk. James K. Polk. He was born with that mullet. He rocked that mullet in the 1840s, and he died in that mullet, girl. And they wished, like the AI wished they could have gotten the mullet as good as he had it in real life.
Yeah, that's absolutely one of my favorite. That's why the internet was built, is to do things like this.
God bless the internet, undefeated.
I immediately went to Taft, and I was like, "Did they do King Kong Bundy? Like, what am I going to see here?"
He's just a beast.
He's a big boy.
Yeah, he's thick. He's thick.
Taft, as a wrestler or a real president, didn't miss many meals. You can tell he was fucking ready to go.
All right.
No, he thick. He thick.
Okay, my second question to get us all the way back to Forrest Gump. So, what's your absolute favorite part of the movie? What if you have to pick a single scene or sequence? Where are you going?
Oh, my heart leapt. I know exactly which one it is, and it's when Forrest, his mic cuts out at the Washington Memorial, and then they plug it back in. And he says, and that's all I have to say about that. And then Buttercup, who I know isn't Buttercup,
right,
in the movie.
It's Buttercup.
Right,
Robin Wright
runs in. Robin Wright, comes running out and Buttercup,
Jenny.
and Jenny and they hug, and it's just so beautiful and so pure, and that is my favorite.
All time like movie shot ever with them, like when they pan back and they're standing there like right center of that pool and the obelisk behind them, and that just so epic, and her running across lifting up her dress in the water, and just so cool.
When I've been to,
and you know what, and it's romance, because but it's also like childhood friend stuff, and like I love the romance. I love that they have a baby. I think it's all great. The romantic heteronormative aspect of it is great, but in that moment of them like running across the pool is the love of children, seeing their childhood friend, and it's sort of sexless and just like that really pure nugget of joy we're all born with. And because he is so, for lack of a better word, simple, it's just like, it's you.
It reminds me of that little video that went viral of it's like the little white boy and the little black boy, and they see each other on the street, and they went running up to each other. They hadn't hung out forever, and like they're just like, oh, they go up and they give each other a hug. Like it's got that same vibe for sure.
Well, I mean,
I was just gonna say, that's kind of, she said it right. Like that's kind of the impactfulness of it, is the sexless nature of it, right? Like. God, Nate, don't say you were going to say what I was.
Everything Zach said, I was going to say. Everything he's about to say, I was also going to say. Just FYI.
I'm just saying, like, the inherent like lack of sexuality in their relationship is just kind of endearing, right?
I was going to
like
say that.
The fact that he loves her not in any way, and it's funny to talk to the girl that has the history of like to fuck episode about it, because it's like the inherent nature of the fact that he doesn't want to fuck her. Like that's his last thought. His last thought is having sex, or the sexual nature of it. And his first thought is that he just loves her so much as a person, which is just kind of wild to think about. It's kind of like,
I was going to say that.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's also too like, and it's so. This is one of the things I love about Forrest Gump is you watch it many times, and it has that like rewatchable factor. But the fact that like Buttercup, I know her name is Jenny.
She'll always be Buttercup.
Jenny has obviously endured childhood sexual abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is implicitly and like explicitly alluded to that like her dad is a bad dude, right?
And almost all of her relationships with males throughout her entire life, besides Forrest, are all sexually based, right?
Totally.
So this is the one relationship that is like pure to her.
Yeah. And when she has sex with him, she climbs up in his window and decides she wants to have sex with this guy. Like it is obviously 100% on her terms, her choice, her everything, right? And so there's something kind of wonderful about that too, that even though, like you said, I don't think that he even knew what was going on. He obviously didn't know what was going on because when he meets her baby, it takes him forever to be like, I don't understand.
He got a daddy named Forrest too.
What that was or what happened. Right. Oh, and that's you mentioned the other sweet moment, the one that will make me cry every time. And I'll probably cry 5 or 6 times every time I watch Forrest Gump. Is when he says, is he smart or is he like... Like,
or is he like me?
That's crazy acting from Tom Hanks right there. Like when he like the way he chokes up on his own and like the way he's clenching his fingers and stuff.
Well, and this gets so early on. Dawn Brad was in our opening segment was talking about the fact that like he asked the question is Forrest empathetic because of the simplicity, right? There's a sense in which like he's not ever able to put himself in other shoes or like maybe understand the like second order implications of things. And I was pointing out there's a couple points, where he may do that when Bubba's dying and he kind of lies to him, to try to keep him. But that's another one, right?
Yeah,
Brad,
great example.
In the sense that like he understands the complex implications of whether or not like he's sort of more simple or whether or not he's somebody that is more typical in terms of his like standard intelligence.
I think it makes him understand what he's gone through. It's because he's experienced it. I don't necessarily think that he understands other people's experiences. He knows that he's been told he's dumb and like, or that he's had to deal with bullying and stuff. So I see what you're saying, but I don't necessarily know if he can project empathy beyond himself. He empathizes with himself. Like I know what I went through, but he doesn't necessarily is able to see or put his empathy on other folks.
All right.
So I don't know.
All right, Zach, you got anything else?
All right.
You got anything else you want to say that I was already going to say? Okay, good. Okay, so we're going to move on to talking about Dawn. Before we leave the segment, give us the HILF pitch, like for our listeners that you want to like really, not that you've already pretty much sucked them all in, but just in case there were one or two that didn't hear the segment until now, what do you got to say about HILF and why they should listen?
Well, it is. I don't know if this is the best pitch or anything, but it is truly an exercise for me, because here's what I'm going to do if I don't have this podcast. I'm going to make excuses to talk to strangers about history at work, in the grocery store. I'm going to do that ham hand stuff, which is like, oh, I see you're wearing a t-shirt. Did you know that the t-shirt was invented? And it's too much. And my dear friends and my enemies will all agree that, oh my God, do not make the mistake of asking Dawn about anything or doing anything, because I love it and I'm obsessed about it. And so in HILF, what I do is I invite people to join me in my lair of historical obsession, but to set my sights on something they want to hear about. And I do a historian's deep dive. I have a history degree. I've worked for historical institutions around the world. I'm a talking head on the History Channel. And I bring all of that to whatever stupid bullshit you want me to fuck for you.
You fit in perfectly with our pod because myself excluded. We've got a couple of guys on this pod that are really big fucking dorks and dorks about history. And like, I love that you're like so into it, because these dudes are just holding up the table with their fucking boners right now, just talking about the history.
Prove it.
So if you ever need some super dorky guests, like we know like one of us may be an expert on like the United States Constitution or the Senate or some shit. Like, I mean, there's there's some people that could talk pretty specifically on your pod. So
I can't. I would love it.
And at minimum,
let me give you a little sample. I
jokes.
was in which I am always enjoy. I was in Austin, not Austin. I think that's where the Texas Museum is in Austin, Texas. Or anyway, I was there. I was drunk. I was in my 20s. And of course, my friends take me to a fucking museum because that's where I wanted to go. And there was a Civil War reenactor outside.
Oh.
And I was very excited to talk to them. And my friends were like, please don't. And they're thinking I'm going to get into a political fight because I'm also a, spoiler alert, kind of a left coast liberal. And they were like, oh no, she's going to get into a political fight. I was like, oh no, way more than being a left coast liberal. I'm a history nerd. And I want to know why this idiot's out here in wool.
Why is he wearing this gray wool coat?
Because if this guy's out here in wool, I see he's on the wrong side. But he's also out here in wool, and that means he loves history, and that means we are going to have something to talk about.
There you go.
You know? And so, like I'm like 20s hot and like a mini skirt and like yelling at my friends, like, let me go talk to him. But it's not a hot guy from the bar. It's the middle of the day, and it's a Civil War reenactor.
You're trying to talk to old Johnny Red.
Exactly. I'm just saying I come by this authentically. Like it's always
6-year-old man wrapped in a Confederate flag, sweating on the curb in Austin, and you're like, let me talk to this fucking guy.
And I'm like, what do you mean Northern aggression? What does Northern aggression mean? I can fix him. I don't know. Anyway, they let me. They saved me.
All right. Well, right now the Bev's Video Kingdom is the podcast of the month, and you have the unfortunate honor of having to follow us next month. So good luck with that, because HILF will be the podcast of the month for the Deluxe Edition Network next month. So congratulations and good luck.
Spoiler alert. Look at that.
Oh
good
my
luck.
God. Well, you guys are, your ad is going to run in my mid-roll for my next episode. It's already there. It's already there.
Okay. Did she have the new?
Are you playing the clean version or the dirty version?
Yeah, that's the question.
I feel like when I say fuck all the time, I'd be like, this sounds too clean. I'll put fucks in. If it's the clean version, I'll edit them back in.
Well, there's one that's beeped. Yeah, it just talks about shit. And hopefully you have the new one, because I did a shitty one, but we did do a newer one. So hopefully you've got that new one.
A lot of shit talking.
We'll compare notes. We'll compare notes before it goes live.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. We are looking forward to having you back next week for our draft as our draft judge. So we will see you then. And until then, somebody go listen to HILF, because she's awesome.
History. Hi, I'm Dawn Brodey, a comedian with a history degree and the host of the podcast HILF, History I'd Like to Fuck. Each episode, I am joined by a new guest who has brought me a subject from history that they want to know more about. Then I hit the books, I dig deep in the annals, and stimulate. We've covered Frankenstein, Houdini, Joan of Arc, Pompeii, the Salem witch trials, right? Join us and find out for yourself that history is a party and everybody's coming.
Is it a one-night stand, or do you hit it with a shovel, or take it home to mom and dad? It's like fuck, marry, or kill. It's shag, snack, body bag.
I don't know what that was, but it was perfectly timed.
I'm assuming that's probably Zach's phone is connected to his computer right now. And it just gave us a little alert. So we might have to tell him to silence that shit when he gets
I like it.
back.
If it works perfectly with our music, we should just keep it up.
Yeah.
That timing was perfect.
All right. So we're shagging, we're snagging, and then we're body bagging. I want to know, Brad.
I just real quick, I want to give a shout out the fact that our guest was a lot of fun.
Dawn from HILF.
So great.
Gonna be back next week.
Out. Yeah, she's gonna be back judging us, and that's when it gets scary. I won't know if I like her next week, but for right now,
she was great.
She's pretty cool as fuck. So
yeah, and her podcast is great. We said it. You know, sometimes you're like, "Well, are you saying that shit to her?" But it is really good.
So
listen to it 100%.
If you like history or funny things, you should listen to her. Brad, what are you shagging from Forrest Gump?
You know, we talked about this earlier, but it's 100% Bulldog Gump. The fact that he can go from 0 to 60 in all the right moments. I mean, at least when he thinks that like he needs to protect somebody, that dude will go into just rage. Like he does what he needs to do. And I mean, how many times he just thumps random guys just because he thinks that anybody's doing anything wrong to his Jenny, or when he's trying to, you know, get Bubba out of the jungle. Like it's just,
he's a savage.
Well, at the Black Panther party, those punches he was laying into that guy,
and
he wasn't stopping.
Yeah,
he was like, I'll just kill you.
The first time at the girls' college, the punches look kind of dumb because it's super slow. Like it's like kaboom. Kaboom! Like but then
like a rock'em sock'em robot.
Totally,
kind of. But then when he goes to the Black Panther party, I mean, he just starts unloading. He's I mean, messes that dude's face up. Yeah. Deservedly so, of course. Yeah. So the Bulldog Forrest Gump is I gotta shag that because, you know, he's so nice, he's so kind, but when it comes time to throw down for the good cause, you need him on your side.
I love that.
Awesome.
All right, give it to me.
I'm gonna. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but I'm shagging the bullets flying by your head. The war scene was the most realistic war scene that I'd ever experienced at that point. There hadn't been a movie like that with that the surround sound and hearing them zipping by your head when they first are getting attacked. It was scary and crazy because Saving Private Ryan was like 4 years later after this, which I didn't realize. And like, so this was like the first time I'd seen, like you feel like you're in battle. And dude, that shit, I just remember how fucking scared I was in the theater going, oh my God, this feels like I'm in battle right now. And dude, that shit's badass.
Yeah, aggressive sound and very well sound design and all the little tracers that are flying by and stuff.
The tracers are flying into the camera. It's just like, right at it.
The one dude's like gun gets shot out of his hands and it's like bouncing off and stuff. Like
it was crazy gory too. Like one guy was all burned, like half of him was all burned up, and like those guys get hit with a rocket and just pretty much just disintegrate in front of them. And it was a pretty brutal war scene.
Even the first guy that hits, I mean, that little poof of blood is just like, and then he just goes down. It's aggressive.
So I'm shagging a controversial shag here. I'm taking Jenny. So
I can't wait to hear this.
So it's controversial on, well, first of all, Robin Wright is both beautiful in this and a great actress.
Right.
Like she's like, the performance is terrific, but also because, you know, we follow a lot of like, you know, movie Facebook pages and forums and things. And there's an incredible amount of hate for Jenny, the character, as though she's just like a real piece of shit. And I just disagree. Like I'm not saying that she doesn't do some like questionable stuff, but she's a very real, complicated character. Like my take on Jenny is like, you know, she's sort of seen as like this. She's clearly the secondary character, right? She's throughout the movie, so she's secondary in terms of like being a persistent character. And I think a lot of people see her as being like sort of unequivocally bad, or just not very interesting. And I think the more I watch it, the more I like the Jenny story. And the more it makes sense to me, and the more that her character behaves the way that a complex character with her background would behave.
Right. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, she was abused sexually, and you know, I mean, that's what was interesting. How he's talking about, he doesn't even understand, even as he's telling the story as an adult, what had happened to her. He's like, he was a loving man. He's always touching them, and
he has no clue what she's been through as far as trauma.
All right, Zach, what's your shag?
If I'm going to shag anything, it's going to be Robin Wright. I mean, I think we already talked about how just like polarizing and amazing her character is. I think she's a super beautiful, super amazing actress. And I think that part of what is so polarizing about her character is a testament to how good of an actress she is. I think that she really does the part justice, and it also has to do with the young actress that plays, I don't know what her name is, but the young actress that plays Jenny too, which is like, she's not spectacular as far as acting goes, but she sort of emotes and makes you feel for her, and you sort of, you know, you go along on her journey of like just troubled childhood to troubled young adult to just like fucked up adult to like sort of normal kind of motherhood adult until she tragically passes away. It's just it's a wild ride, completely separate from all the historical stuff and all the Forrest Gump stuff. And I don't know. It's one of those things that you don't notice. I think one of you guys said it. I think Nate said it earlier. Like you don't really notice it on the first like 2-3 watches, and then when you watch it for like the 7th time, you're like, oh my god, dude, this is a wild ride for the character of Ginny. So that's what I'm going with.
Robin Wright in House of Cards. A lot of people always gave props to Kevin Spacey, like for kind of leading that show. But
she's phenomenal.
She was the heart of that show, and when she kind of got to take over towards the last couple seasons. God, she was like evil and conniving, but also just like commanded the screen. So like, yeah, she's a hell of an actress, no doubt.
And Princess Buttercup in Princess Bride. I mean, she's done tons of great shit.
All right, what are you going to snag, Brad?
So my snag is, and it's also gonna segue later into my body bag, but my snag is the running on empty montage.
Easy for you to say.
That is such a silly, weird, funny whole little montage of him running. And it's like, because she says, you were running. And then all of a sudden he starts running and it's the songs playing. That's where he has the whole, the shit happens. That's where the whole have a nice day and like all that stuff that starts going on. It's so cartoonish. It's so ridiculous. The fact that like people start following him while they're running and like, what are you doing? And we're just gonna go with you. And he's got this whole group following him. It's like, what the fuck was really going on? Were they all staying at little hotels together? Like, was this a big party? And then like Forrest Gump's just sitting there like, what the fuck are y'all doing? Like, I have so many questions about that scene, but at the same time, that scene's just joyous. The shit happens when the truck gets hit because it's got the bumper sticker. It's such a dumb thing to do, right? But it's so perfect. I remember laughing my ass off in the theater when all of a sudden shit happens, pops on the screen, and that truck goes forward and it just gets fucking hit.
It's almost a little scary too. It's like you're not expecting it to get hit. You're like, oh yeah, bumper sticker. Then it
gets slammed, and it's like, oh my god, this joke is so it's punching you in the face, but I love it.
The smiley face on the t-shirt, though. I mean, come on,
so ridiculous,
so stupid,
absolutely dumb.
Which kind of takes you out of the movie for a second, but I don't know. I guess that's kind of the
somehow
there were a few gags where I was like, this feels too like forced in some way, but you get right back in. Like it does push you out for a second, but it doesn't leave you out very long.
Yeah.
All
right, Zach, what do you got for a snag?
So my snag has to be the movie Forrest Gump, inspiring the franchise Bubba Gump Shrimp, which I, as a young man, kind of like I had a bunch of jobs before that, but it was like the first job that I ever made like a real working wage. I worked as a waiter at Bubba Gump Shrimp Company on Cannery Row in Monterey. And it's like a big tourist trap location. In the summertime, it was just the amount of money that I would make as a waiter at Bubba Gump Shrimp Company was just absolutely, for the young college student that I was, it was just the most insane shit. I would make $200-300 in one night in cash and then go spend $200-300 that same night at the bar afterwards, every night for 5 nights a week. And it was the most fun that I've ever had. Everybody that worked there was young and in college, and it was just the most fun time. But the crazy thing about that job is that they leaned so hard into the Bubba Gump shrimp like kind of like motif that everything was Forrest Gump themed, and every table that you had to do Forrest Gump trivia with every single table. So you had to go to the table and talk to them about the movie Forrest Gump, and you had to ask them 3 questions, Forrest Gump trivia from the movie. And you had to be like, you know, who was the actress that played Forrest Gump's mom? And then like they would be like, I don't fucking know, because they were 22 and have no fucking idea what you're talking about. You know what I mean? And it's like, the model of that restaurant, I don't know if it's sustainable, and they have locations all over the United States, and it's a super successful franchise. But at the same time, it's like, as time goes on and that movie turns 30 years old, it's like, I wonder how they're going to sustain if people just haven't seen the movie Forrest Gump. So in my current job, we've been doing a bunch of these trainings, and one of the things we talk about is like, we equate like running from an active threat as you run like Forrest Gump. And we just have these 22-year-old kids just staring at us like, what the hell are you talking about, dude? And so it's like, I don't know if the Bubba Gump Shrimp Company is going to make it much further down the line, but holy shit, as a young kid, the opportunity to work there with a bunch of tourists coming through, spending a bunch of money, and it was a super, super fun time. So that's my shack.
Well, let's not go over the fact that you've mentioned on this pod before that you served Morgan Freeman at that same Bubba Gump.
I did. And the Presidents of the United States of America, the band, I also served them at Bubba Gump Shrimp.
Is the food any good? I've never been to a Bubba Gump. Is the food any good?
The food is surprisingly okay.
Okay.
That's the only thing. So
that's good enough.
The cool thing about when I worked there, I'm sure they've got some sort of rules about it now, but you could just go and you could go to your little Aloha system. You could type in a drink or a food or whatever it is, and then you could assign it to one of your tables, and then you'd go get it and you'd take it to the table and you'd say, hey, here's your vodka soda. And then they would say, we didn't order a vodka soda. And you'd say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And you would take it back and you'd have a manager take it off of their tab. And then you would drink your vodka soda in the back of the house. And then you'd go back to work. And
I love back of the house stories.
Do that the whole time. So that was one of the positives.
All right, you got Scott.
I'm gonna snag all the memories I've created in my own brain of Zach just living it up at Bubba Gump's. That's just, I'm picturing him just getting crazy. Anyway, I had a couple things we've already talked about, and I'm trying to think because we already talked about like the soundtrack, how amazing it was, and the technology and all that stuff. So I'm just gonna go ahead and snag something off my shag list, which is all the people smoking cigarettes that shouldn't be, like the doctor and the bus driver and all these people like smoking in weird places in the movie. And so I'm going to go ahead and snag that.
I think my mom says that the high school we all went to actually had like the student smoking area, like, and it was like on campus. It was like a little place where the students could go to smoke their cigarettes. Wow. Like at one point I was like, that's kind of cool.
Scott, that was actually the most historically accurate part of the entire movie. By all the professionals.
All right, so I don't know how we've gotten this far without a full-on Tom Hanks love fest, but it's time.
Yeah.
So I'm snagging Hanks, and I'm going to snag him on two fronts. The first one is very movie-centric. So I had this conversation with my wife where I was like, one of the things that was really bothering me when on this watch was whether or not Tom Hanks was kind of making fun of Forrest Gump. Like there's a caricature, right? I mean, the character is, in a sense, like feels a little bit exaggerated, and he leans heavily into like the mannerisms that are very sort of simple and innocent. And so I was kind of like, I can't shake this worry or this feeling that like now that I'm watching it, that maybe he's kind of like, making fun of his, his sort of like low IQ or something. And she's kind of like, no. She's like, your problem one is you didn't grow up around people that had real Southern accents. And she's like, and he's doing a reasonable like a reasonable Alabama accent. And she kind of has she often is makes this point, which I think is correct, which is people associate Southern accents with stupidity. Like that's a common, sort of like association that you find if you survey people and things. And so she's like,
especially people from California.
So like it's a Southern accent that is exaggerating that. B, it's Southern accents also tend to be slower, like the pace of speaking is slower. And she's like, and people that have below normal IQs do tend to speak like a little bit more deliberately and slower. So she's like, I think this is probably a pretty good representation of like what this character would be, without being too much like tongue in cheek about it. And so I'm kind of, I think I was more and more convinced that, there are parts where he plays it for plays the lines for laughs, but he's never playing Forrest for a laugh. It's always like Forrest is tending to be funny in his own way. And I think Hanks kills it. I actually think this role doesn't work it was hard. I tried hard to think of another actor that I thought would do it. And I just don't see anybody else doing it the way that Hanks does it. It's a different movie.
For that same thing, like we've talked a little bit about the empathy of Forrest Gump. there is one moment that I love the line reading, but at the same time, maybe it doesn't necessarily fit with Forrest Gump's character, is after he's beat the shit out of the hippie dude and they're getting back on the bus and he's like, blah, blah, and this fucking President Johnson, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes, well, you know what I think? I think she should go back to Greenbow, Alabama.
And loses it.
And it's the first time where he's ever shown any emotion outside of immediately going to punch somebody.
Right.
This is the first time where he actually shows some real emotion about something. And it's like, it's kind of, it throws you off a little bit. I love it. I love the way he says it. It gets me so fired up. But at the same time, it's the first time where he actually like is reacting outside of, I just need to go up and beat this dude up.
And what it gives you a hint about is that a lot of his personality is not just, it's not entirely driven by being innocent. It's that he's measured, right? Like he's somebody who is not just not getting it. He's a person who's very level, right? And he gets excited about things, but in general, his reactions to things are very level, even excitable things. He gets excited sometimes, but in general, he's like, keeps his cool even when it's not a question of innocence.
Well, he does bounce off the boat one time when he's excited to see.
I wrote that down. All right. So
I mean, he literally comes in the roommate's robe without even making change of expression. He's not even, there's no change in his demeanor at all. He's very level.
So Tom Hanks, listen to this run. This is an 8-year run. Starting in 92, he has A League of Their Own, Sleepless in Seattle, Philadelphia, for which he wins the Best Picture.
Great movie.
Next year, Forrest Gump, for which he wins Best Actor 2 years in a row. 95, Apollo 13, which is like the stinker of those three, and it's a phenomenal movie. Also in 95, he voices Toy Story. 96, That Thing You Do. 98, Saving Private Ryan. 98, You've Got Mail. 99, Toy Story 2, 99, Green Mile, and 2000, Castaway.
Jeez.
That is an 8-year run that I'll put against anybody in history's 8-year run.
Jeez.
I'll put that against most anyone's career. That's unreal.
You know, I got the old bevometric machine out and I did some bevometrics, and we had not up to this point done a Tom Hanks movie. This is our first Tom Hanks movie that we've done in this podcast, which is pretty damn awesome.
And we might have a run coming.
Yeah, I'd say we had a little planning meeting not too long ago, and you know what? We're going to make up for that.
Schedule has shown it may not be last.
Tom Hanks deserves a little bit of credit.
He went on a run. We're going to put him on a run.
We're going to put him on a little run on this podcast.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right. So body bag. Zach, what do you got? What are you body bagging?
I'm body bagging Bubba Gump Shrimp Company, the restaurant. They caught me on some bullshit, and I may have gotten fired from working there in about 2003. And you know what? It was some bullshit. And you know what? I'm still in talks with HR about maybe getting that job back. So
hey,
we'll see. I'll take them out of the body bag if they can give me my job back.
You did admit that you were, stealing free drinks. So I mean,
and it had nothing. It had nothing to do with that. Those drinks were free. those drinks were not stolen. They were free, dude. Come on, Brad.
Oh boy.
That's so good.
Scott, what are you body bagging?
I'm going to body bag Forrest Gump telling a black stranger a story that she didn't want to hear and pointing out that he was named after the founder of the Ku Klux Klan and her not just getting the fuck out of it. Like the movie literally starts with him telling this girl that she doesn't want to hear him fucking talk. She's trying to read her magazine and mind her own business. And he says he's literally named after the leader of the Ku Klux Klan.
And says they put their sheets on and had a party or something.
And they're like acting like a bunch of spooks or something.
Yeah, there was a lot of problematic things there that she did not correct him on.
No, she sat there and just kept listening and whatever. So that's what I'm body bagging on this.
That's pretty cool.
Hey, that just goes to show is that if you compliment a woman's shoes, you can pretty much say anything. So
she said my feet hurt.
My feet hurt.
Compliment on her shoes.
Oh boy, that's great.
Like, these are great shoes.
My body bag is I just talked about how I like the scene running on empty, but my body bag is On the Nose needle drops. And this movie is chock full of them. I mean, as much as people give the love to the soundtrack, there is some shit that just punches you in the face. I mean, Running on Empty as he's running along. When she's walking out the door, she's walking out the door. It's they've got that song going. It's like, I mean, there's just so many
too obvious for you.
Very too obvious. Which
Freebird.
They're infringing on my territory. Yeah, Freebird. She's about to go to fly off into the sky. As much as the music, there are some great ones. I mean, Fortunate Son as he goes to Vietnam, like everything about it is so like, what's the most just on the nose song we can choose right now? And they pretty much do it every single time, but they're all good songs.
I'm confused because I don't know. I like a lot of those.
But we do that all the time on the pod. We talk about the most on the nose. Why not?
Might have one coming up.
All right, so I'm body bagging the one thing about Jenny's character that I both think is actually really, really shitty and I think is out of character, which is that she doesn't tell Forrest about Forrest. So, she waits until he's several years old, and then finally he finds out.
Well, she's keeping track of him. She's keeping track of him with a whole like scrapbook and stuff. So
right.
she knows where he's at. It's not like she doesn't like, I don't know what he's doing or where he's at.
Well, she likes Forrest. She thinks he's a really kind person, and in the end, clearly wants Forrest to raise Forrest.
Right.
B, he's fucking loaded, right? Like, I'm not saying that Jenny's
he's got a lot of money.
I'm not saying Jenny's a gold digger, but like
she kind of waited till.
Why would you? She likes Forrest. She likes living in there. Like she'd have no financial issues, and like why on earth would she not? So I was like, this doesn't make sense to me. It does. Like all the other things that people think Jenny does that are shitty, I think they're wrong about. And I think they're totally within her character. And this is the one they're right about. And it's totally out of her character. So I think this is just a misstep.
But Nate, don't you think that goes along with my theory that I haven't expressed yet because I missed the beginning of the pod? And that's that kid is not Forrest's kid. Like, let's be real. She's just telling him that it is.
He did the head tilt. He did the head tilt like, exactly the same moment as Forrest. So they're definitely.
Yeah. She's like, I got a plan.
At some point, she was like, I need some money. I'm going to call Forrest and tell him that this is his kid. Yeah, fuck it.
But joke's on her because she waited till she was dying. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if she's going to pull that move, do it early.
Well, the deadbeat dad that was the actual father wasn't going to raise that kid. So she needed, I need to make sure this kid's got some money behind him.
Yeah.
That's why the kid's smart. It's not his.
Exactly.
Wow. Yeesh.
Too soon. It's too soon.
Too soon? Jeez.
All right. So, we are, I think, moving on to another category.
Streaming time. Let's do this.
Crackle, Pluto, HBO, find anime on Crunchyroll, Peacock, Hulu, Disney, Netflix, Tubi, Sling TV, Shudder, Fubo. What the fuck is Fubo? Sure, it'll cause a sensation. It's a streaming recommendation.
All right. So this is the part where we tell you what you should watch. And if you liked Forrest Gump, you should watch what, Scott?
If you like Robert Zemeckis, if you like Tom Hanks, if you like simplistic soundtracks, I can only think of one movie, Castaway.
Oh, good call.
Yeah, and what's crazy about that is I didn't even think about this. One day I was watching it, and the minute he's on that island, there's no music. There's nothing until he's off the island.
Oh, wow. I don't think I ever realized.
Yeah. So next time you're watching, there's nothing other than the sounds of him and what he's doing. It's just completely nothing.
No score, no nothing?
Nothing.
Okay.
So anyway, but, we were talking about Alden Silvestri doing the for Forrest Gump. And, I saw him listed as he did this one as well. I was like, well, what did he do? But I don't remember the beginning music of this either. So anyway, but yeah, Castaway is on fucking Fubo.
That's a sneaky good recommendation.
Right Fuck is Fubo.
Brad, what do you got?
So I was thinking of movies that take you on like a little adventure, and they're like almost like little vignettes and stuff. And I believe we've done a lot of episodes now, and I've probably recommended this before, but my recommendation is Amelie, which is a French movie, Audrey Tautou, and it is it's got kind of the same thing. She's very awkward. She's quiet. She's shy, but she starts interacting with all these different people's lives and kind of like brings little connections together and stuff. And it's a very interesting way. And you watch it, and it's just kind of got this little magic about it, and that it flows, and you just kind of want to find out what's she going to do next, what's she going to do next. And it kind of gives you some of the same vibes that you get from Forrest Gump. So the problem with Amelie right now is that it is not streaming anywhere, but you can rent it on pretty much all of the normal rental bullshit.
Is it a cartoon? Like
No.
the cover looks like it's a cartoon.
It's
the style's very interesting.
Very colorful. They did a lot with the filters as far as the color, and it's a very pretty movie.
Do you have a copy of the DVD?
I do not. I don't. But
I was going to ask if you could give it to me so I could not watch it for the next 20 years.
Boy. I know. I've mentioned this before, so if you haven't seen it yet, it's a good watch. I really think I think you and Court would dig it.
Perfect. I'll put it in my queue and then not watch it.
But see, I also said that Court needs to watch it, so it's not that I think overarches. If it was just I need to watch it, then
you go ahead and convince her, and then I'll get on board. All right, Zachy, what's your streaming recommendation for Forrest Gump?
Can you throw it to somebody else? I'm not ready for that yet. I gotta fucking get ready here.
All right, I'm gonna do it. All right, so for me, I also went with a Tom Hanks movie, and it's one that's I think significantly further off the beaten path than Castaway, and that is the 2004 subtle flick, The Terminal.
I never watched that.
I never seen any.
So there's two cool things about it for me. One, like it's a very heartfelt movie. It's one of these that it's not the same in that Tom Hanks' character in that is not, like sort of innocent and simple quite the same way as Forrest Gump is.
But they're both true stories.
They're both true stories. That's one part of it. And so two things. One, he's a fish out of water in the sense that he's a foreigner in a United States, in a U.S. airport.
I thought he's Charles de Gaulle in France.
No, he's in New York. I think he's at either JFK or LaGuardia. Yeah. So, because he's going to like a jazz club in New York. That's where he's trying to go. And so are you challenging me?
Oh,
the guy who hasn't seen the movie?
No. The real life dude was in Charles de Gaulle. They Americanized it.
Cool. So my bad. You read the article from Newsweek. But
yes,
you didn't watch it.
I'm sure.
Got it. Okay. So one thing I like is that he's similar in the sense that he's like got an innocence about him and a very kindness. The second thing is, have you ever imagined like having to live in like an airport or like a Walmart or like there's some fantasy there where you're like, oh, what would I do? It's like it has a little bit of that night at the museum feel from when you were a kid, right? Where you have to live in this space that's not really a living space. But there's like
I've got the answer, Nate. You know what you do if you have to live inside an airport?
What?
You just eat shitty airport food and drink the entire time. That's the only thing you can do. It's an absolute nightmare.
No, it's not a nightmare. That's great. I like airport food.
No, dude. No, it's never as good as real food. It's always like slightly off. It's like whatever the school cafeteria calls pizza, that's like the same thing if you get pizza at the airport. Like if you go to like the TGI Fridays, never tastes like a real TGI Fridays. It's always like some sort of like fucking weird concoction that they've come up with, and like it's all got the same breading and it's all fried in the same oil, and it all kind of tastes like homogeneous.
I think both are accepted.
Fucking, I don't know, man.
Are you talking shit about the Ross cafeteria pizza? Because that's blasphemy.
Dude,
you throw a square slice of pizza on a piece of wax paper. I'll eat the wax paper and the pizza, and I'll love it.
The little chunks of pepperoni in there. Oh, fucking delicious.
The dog foods disguised as pepperoni.
Yeah, love that cheese, whatever that cheese was, that wax mixed with cheese was so delicious.
Oh man. Okay, so Zach, streaming recommendation, hit me.
Did we all go Tom Hanks?
Everybody has gone. No,
I went with Amelie.
Brad went some weird movie that no one likes.
Nate went with a French movie but they Americanized it.
So I've got two. The first one, and I'm going alternate history and like actual history, but not really. So the first one is a Tom Hanks vehicle that's actually a Leonardo DiCaprio vehicle with Catch Me If You Can, right? Supposedly based on a true story. I love the movie. I love everything about it. DiCaprio's amazing. Tom Hanks is like the guy that's trying to catch him. Very cool flick. I believe you can stream that on Netflix. And then the other one, which I don't think is streaming, is so shitty streaming recommendation. Apologies, but pay $3.99 for it on Apple, and you can watch Tarantino's Inglourious Bastards. If we're talking about, we're just making up history at this point.
History. Yeah.
I mean, I love everything about that movie, and it's all kind of bullshit. So it goes right along with Forrest's retelling of history. I love it.
I assume we're going to do Inglourious on here at some point.
I hope so.
We 100% have to.
Totally.
I think that's the best Tarantino behind Pulp Fiction.
Well, for me, it's my number one, but yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That sounds like
I
a
want
good
to have that
conversation.
argument.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
We can definitely have that conversation. I'm all about that.
By the way, mine is streaming on Fubo. Okay, so we have got our streamers, and now we are coming up on our final segment.
No jet wash for Maverick, Meg still on that goose stick. Iceberg list Titanic, Leo's drawing that nude shit. Jim fucks Nadia like we all thought he should. Ricky and Doughboy get the fuck out the hood. Luke hooks up with Leia just like he's intending. It's time for a reshelf and alternate endings.
All right, so we are on to. Fuck you. What are you guys laughing about?
Dramatic pause, bro.
I'm the king of the dramatic pause tonight.
I love it. Your eyeballs like look around. Really, what's going on?
You're like Susanna Hoffs.
I just want to see how uncomfortable. I want to see how uncomfortable I can make you guys. Fuck you guys. All right.
Susanna.
Walk like an Egyptian, bro.
Walk like an Egyptian.
I forgot about that video. Oh my God. That's hilarious.
All right. So we're doing reshelf or alternate endings. Sometimes we like to mix in a song that would be really inappropriate to finish with. Does anyone who wants to jump in the water here? Who's got something?
Well, I don't have an ending, but I have a song.
Hit us.
I figured a very appropriate because we're not exactly quite sure what Jenny has, but I think we all know what she has. And so a little song from Team America. Everybody has AIDS. Everybody has AIDS. I think would be a great way to end the movie.
Oh, boy. Whew.
That's amazing, Scott. We're going to cut that from the podcast, but thank you for contributing your thought.
I don't think we're going to cut that. I think we might leave that in. Why not?
I don't sign on to this.
I got a movie ending song, and this movie uses songs that have been used in other movies, and it's it kind of feels like sometimes it's just trying too hard. So I feel like they would have no problem at the end just dropping "Love Lift Us Up Where We Belong," which is already used in Officer and a Gentleman. But it's basically like trying to talk about his love for Jenny. And, at the very end, he's sitting there like watching her at her grave. And that super emotional song comes in. It feels like it'd be right on the nose. Just perfect. Right time period, little late, early 80s stuff. That's what they wanted. So just punch us in the nose again.
Everybody has AIDS.
I'll share.
Oh, boy. Well, speaking of my alternate ending,
I'll share a trick with everybody that listens. If you ever go to the grocery store and they're like, "Hey, do you have a rewards card?" or anywhere that you go, all you have to do is put in the area code of the current city that you're in, and then the phone number 867-5309. And it doesn't matter what city or country you're in. If you're in the 305 area code, you put in 305-867-5309, and you will get that thing, because there's always some asshole that puts in 867-5309 from the song Jenny by our boy. And I think that would be a great ending song to this movie, right? Like, everybody needs to fucking know Jenny's phone number. She's not fucking.
Is that Rick Springfield?
It's scrawled on every bathroom wall from here to fucking Greenbow, Alabama.
It's not Rick Springfield. Damn it. Fuck. I should know that.
I don't know why I didn't think of Jenny. I've got your number.
867-5309 is perfect.
Jenny, I got your number. I mean, dude. Forrest is
it was
definitely
Tommy Two Tone.
Tommy Two Tone.
No, it was definitely not somebody who's our homeboy.
I'm just saying, dude. If there's a perfect song for a girl who everybody has her number, it's Jenny from Greenbow, Alabama.
Yeah, that would have been a great ending.
All right, so I've got an alternate ending / reshelf.
Go for it.
Everything happens exactly as it had to this point, right? And Forrest gets to the apartment, he says to Jenny, like, is he like me or is he? And she goes, no, he's a vampire, Forrest. And then little Forrest just jumps up and starts eating Jenny. Just fucking tears her throat out.
Oh no.
Wow.
Now he usually punches anybody that attacks Jenny, he usually starts punching.
Yeah. So Big Forrest gets him, gets blood all over him. Big Forrest gets AIDS.
Jesus Christ.
I told you everybody has AIDS.
Can we cut this whole segment?
No, because we're going deeper.
Anybody who's stuck with us,
because even
you.
yeah, if you're still with us, come on. Even sappier than the actual movie. Once Jenny shows up at the house and she says, I'm sick and stuff. Well, you know what? Before she died, Forrest's mom left him some recipes, and she had her recipe for her famous soup that Forrest loved. So, Forrest makes Jenny his mom's famous soup, and it just so happens to cure AIDS. And she recovers fully, and they live happily ever after. Or, as I talked earlier, for the cynical people, she actually recovers only for her to leave him, and she leaves little Forrest too for Mickey Rourke. He's a little bit bad boy, and she goes off with the bad boy doing a lot of drugs and stuff. Little Forrest dies of AIDS because, Forrest stopped making Jenny's soup after she left. He's like, I don't have any reason to make that soup anymore. And actually, little Forrest had it's all bad.
And you guys give me shit for coming up with fucking my song?
Yeah. Jesus Christ. I quit the podcast. You guys have fucking lost me.
A lot of AIDS going around in those early 80s. That's
crazy, guys. I do like the idea of Forrest curing AIDS and somehow meeting up with Magic Johnson in like 1993 at some point. And like, that's how Magic Johnson like comes up with the, I think that's like a cool continuation of Forrest influencing all things pop culture. And then like he introduces like young Forrest to Michael Jackson, and that like kind of fucking influences that whole situation.
Zach, you could have written Forrest Gump too, because we talked about it earlier before you were on. And in Forrest Gump 2, there was going to be Forrest Gump in the white Bronco with O.J. Simpson.
Okay. Oh, I love that.
And also,
this guy was driving fast.
And then also Forrest Gump becoming a bingo caller at an Indian reservation. And this poor Indian lady happened to work in Oklahoma at the Oklahoma Federal Building in the daycare when the bombing happens.
Dude, all these things are possible. All these things are possible.
I think we're due for Forrest Gump too.
Electric Boogaloo.
That's it. Yeah.
So I hate to rain on everybody's parade, but Forrest Gump 2 does exist. The guy that wrote Forrest Gump, the book that this movie is based on, has already written Forrest Gump 2, and it is a book. I have not read it. I've heard that it's sort of.
Do you have some highlights? Do you have any highlights from it?
No, I don't. They didn't teach us that when we were serving drinks.
I know it wasn't too long ago,
don't tell you about Forrest Gump
but in the actual Forrest Gump book, he goes to space. He becomes an astronaut, which they did not do in the movie. So
he does.
It's called Apollo 13.
It's called Apollo 13.
All right. Anybody else got any reshelfers?
No.
Any more?
No, I think we covered it pretty hard with our most fucking controversial take of the entire
we don't even know that she had AIDS. I mean, it's just the assumption for everybody.
Did.
Well, it's talked about on the internet.
I think she probably had.
They don't think it's AIDS. It could be like hepatitis or something. I don't know. It's something else. I think it's AIDS.
At some point in Forrest Gump 2, in about 2019 December, he goes to Wuhan, Japan, and has a bat soup, and then promptly flies back to New York and fucking wreaks absolute havoc.
Oh man,
I've got a cold.
So, what are we doing next week?
It's a cold, Jenny.
I hated the part when he was inflating Tom Brady's footballs. He happened to get a job, and he was like, just gonna pump up Tom Brady's balls.
All right. So, what are we doing next week? Well, next week we are doing a draft. of the most fuckable historical figures in film.
And we're going to have back our lovely guest that we had on early on the show.
Dawn from History I'd Like to Fuck is going to be our very topically appropriate judge.
Yeah.
If anybody knows about fucking historical figures, I think she knows a thing or two about a thing or two.
She likes to talk about fucking historical figures and historical facts.
Her and her time machine. I mean, the fact that she has a time machine, it's pretty cool. It's
pretty cool. So she's coming back for our draft.
Fucking.
The draft is going to be great. I'm looking forward to not being in last place.
Yeah, you need to get that dub. I think you're about ready.
Yeah.
So that's what's coming at you. Thanks for hanging with us.
Bye-bye.
I wanna be at Beverly's, bringing me home with my movies, just a blind ride, no reason why. I love this scene. Nick Nate's I can brag, your favorite podcast. Let's start